The desert sun burned over the Arizona territory, heavy and unforgiving, turning the land into a sea of red dust and endless heat. The air shimmered like a mirage, making the rocks dance in the distance. Ethan Cole rode slow, his hat pulled low, his face carved by sun and years of war. Dust clung to him and his horse alike, the kind that never quite washed away. He'd been riding since dawn, following an old Apache trail winding through badlands few men dared to cross. At 37, Ethan had the look of a man who'd lived too long with ghosts. The war had carved its story into him, deep lines, old scars, and eyes that had seen too much. He kept to himself now, camping alone in canyons where even coyotes gave up the silence. People meant trouble, and Ethan Cole had had his fill of that. Then came the sound that broke the quiet, sharp rifle fire echoing off the canyon walls, followed by the terrified scream of a woman. Ethan stopped his horse, every instinct screaming to turn away. Bandits, most likely. The Arizona trails were full of them. Men too lost to go home, too mean to die decent. But that scream, it cut through him like shrapnel. He spat into the dust and muttered, "Damn it all to hell!" He checked his Winchester, counting his rounds. 6 wasn't much, but it'd have to do. Spurring his horse down the rocky slope, he stayed low, using the red rocks for cover. Below, he saw it. A stagecoach under attack, wheels half buried in dust, its brass fittings glinting in the sun. 2 riders were already down. 4 remained. Circling like vultures, the driver was slumped forward, blood soaking his shirt. A guard still fired from behind a wheel, but he wouldn't last long. The bandits laughed as they shot, one of them yelling, "Ain't nothing worth savin' in there but silk and silver." Ethan's rifle cracked once. 1 bandit fell clean off his horse. The second shot nicked another. The rest turned, searching for him in the glare. "It's just 1 man!" someone shouted. "Take him!" They charged, guns blazing. Ethan worked the lever fast, steady as ever, putting one down and wounding another's horse. Dust exploded around him as bullets chewed up the rocks. Still, he held his ground. At the coach, the last 2 bandits were pulling the door open. A woman's scream split the air again. Ethan's blood ran cold. He bolted from cover, his Colt ready. The nearest bandit turned, too slow. Ethan's shot hit him in the chest, sending him sprawling. The other, a tall man with a scar and cruel grin, grabbed someone from inside the coach, dragging her out. It was a young woman, no more than mid-20s. Her fine traveling dress was torn. Her hair, golden and wild, had come loose from its pins. She fought like hell, kicking and clawing, but the bandit was bigger. He pressed his pistol to her temple. "Back off, stranger," he shouted. "This ain't your concern." Ethan's gun didn't waver. The woman's eyes found his blue as a mountain lake and just as fierce. Then, in a move that shocked them both, she went limp, dead weight in the bandit's arms. As he struggled to hold her, she drove her elbow into his ribs hard enough to make him gasp. That was all Ethan needed. His Colt barked once. The bandit spun and fell, dust rising around him. Silence settled, broken only by the snort of frightened horses. Ethan approached carefully, gun still ready. The woman sat beside the coach wheel, breathing hard, her dress torn and face streaked with dirt. "You hurt, miss?" he asked. She shook her head, still catching her breath. "No, not hurt." Her voice carried an Eastern accent, proper and proud despite the tremor in it. "Thank you. I thought they would." "They won't," Ethan said, glancing at the bodies. "Not anymore." Inside the coach, he found an older woman, a servant, unconscious but alive. "That's Mrs. Hayworth," the younger woman said quietly. "She's my companion, or was." Ethan turned back to her. "Name?" "Amelia Prescott," she said, meeting his gaze squarely. He raised a brow. He'd heard the name before. Railroad money, high society, the kind that didn't mix with gun smoke and dust. "Well, Miss Prescott," he said, "we best get you to town. Dust Creek's a day north." "I'm not going back east," she said quickly, a flash of panic breaking through her composure. "Didn't say you were, But you can't stay here. Desert'll kill you faster than them bandits would've." She lifted her chin. "I'll manage. I've made it this far." "How'd that work out?" Ethan asked dryly. She flinched but didn't back down. "Then I suppose I'm fortunate you came along, mister?" "Cole. Ethan Cole." Her expression softened for just a heartbeat. "Then I'm in your debt, Mr. Cole." "Don't be," he said. "Just alive's good enough." They took 2 of the bandits, horses, and what supplies the coach had left. The older woman groaned awake, disoriented but alive, and between the 3 of them, they got her mounted. Amelia climbed awkwardly into the saddle, grimacing at the motion, but refusing help. "Stay close," Ethan said as they started north. "We'll ride through the night. Rest come morning." Quote, By dusk, the sun had turned the sky to fire, purple and gold streaks blazing across the horizon. Ethan kept checking over his shoulder, uneasy. The desert was too quiet. Then he heard it, the faint rhythmic thunder of hooves, not far, following. "We've got company," he muttered. Amelia looked back, eyes wide. "More bandits?" "Maybe, or maybe someone looking for you." Her whole body went rigid. "Then we can't go to town. Please, Mr. Cole. You don't understand. I can't go back." Ethan studied her in the fading light. She wasn't lying. Fear and fire both burned behind her eyes. "All right," he said finally. "Then we go east, through the canyons. I know a place where we can hide a while." "Whatever you say," she breathed. The older woman crossed herself quietly. "Where Miss Amelia goes, I go." Ethan nodded once. "Then let's move." As darkness fell, they rode deeper into the Badlands. A soldier, a runaway bride, and an old servant, vanishing into a land that swallowed men whole. The West had a way of finding broken souls and binding them together in ways no one could foresee. The wind had teeth that night, biting through their clothes as they rode deeper into the Badlands. Dust swirled in ghostly clouds, the moon half hidden behind a veil of drifting sand. Ethan led the way, his eyes scanning every ridge and shadow. Behind him, Amelia rode in silence, her back straight despite the weariness showing in every line of her face. The older woman, Mrs. Hayworth, clung tightly to her reins, whispering prayers that vanished into the wind. When they finally reached a canyon, Ethan slowed. The walls rose high around them, red rock, streaked with moonlight. A narrow cave yawned halfway up a slope, small, hidden, and dry. "We'll rest here," he said, dismounting. "The horses need it, and so do we." Amelia slid off her horse with a shaky breath. Her knees nearly gave out, but she steadied herself, refusing his hand. "I can manage," she murmured. He gave a faint smirk. "Didn't say you couldn't." Inside the cave, the air was cool and still. Ethan built a small fire, careful to keep it hidden from view. The light flickered across the rough stone, painting shadows on Amelia's face. She sat near the flames, her hands trembling as she tried to untie her gloves. Her palms were raw and blistered. "Let me," Ethan said quietly. He opened a small tin of salve from his saddlebag and took her hands gently. She flinched at the touch, but didn't pull away. His fingers were rough, scarred, yet careful as he worked the ointment into her wounds. "You have gentle hands for a man who carries a gun," she said after a moment. "I'm no gunfighter," he replied. "Just a man who's learned to survive." "You've done more than that tonight." Her eyes searched his face, the firelight glinting in their blue depths. "You saved us. You could have ridden on." "Could have," he agreed. "Didn't." She smiled faintly. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Talking never saved anyone," he said. Outside, the desert whispered and shifted. The storm had died, leaving behind an uneasy quiet. Ethan fed another stick to the fire. The scent of smoke and mesquite filled the air. "Why were you out here?" he asked finally. "Stagecoach ain't no place for a lady alone." "I wasn't alone," she said softly. "My companion and the guard were supposed to keep me safe." She looked down at her blistered hands. "But safety's an illusion. My father promised me to a man named Silas Granger. Said it would save the family business." Railroad money, he called it. Granger's rich, powerful, and cruel. Ethan's jaw tightened. You ran! Yes, I thought I could make it to California. Start over, but Granger doesn't take no for an answer. She looked up, her voice shaking now. You don't know what he's capable of, Mr. Cole. I'd rather die in this desert than go back to him. Ethan stared into the fire. You might not have to. For a long time, neither spoke. The crack of the flames and the slow breath of the wind filled the silence. Amelia drew her knees to her chest, watching the shadows dance. Finally, she said, You've been alone a long time, haven't you? He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was low. Since the war. Lost my family, lost the farm, lost everything that mattered. I'm sorry. Don't be. War takes more than it gives. I made peace with it. Peace, she echoed softly. Or silence. He looked at her then, really looked, and for a moment the space between them felt smaller. You've got a sharp tongue, Miss Prescott. Amelia, she corrected. If I'm to trust you, you should at least call me by my name. All right, Amelia. He tested the name like it was something fragile. The firelight caught her face, making her eyes shimmer. And you, Mr. Cole? Ethan, he said simply. She smiled. Then we're even. A moment later, the distant thunder of hooves shattered their quiet. Ethan was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. The sound echoed through the canyon. Riders, maybe 2 or 3. He killed the fire with a bootful of sand. Stay low, he ordered. Amelia obeyed, pressing herself against the cool stone wall. The horses outside snorted nervously. Ethan crept to the cave's mouth, peering through the shadows. Torchlight flickered faintly along the canyon floor. Not far. Whoever they were searching. After several tense minutes, the light faded. The sound of hooves grew distant, then vanished altogether. Ethan waited longer, just to be sure, before lowering his rifle. They're gone, he said. Amelia exhaled shakily. Granger's men? Could be. He's the kind of man who pays others to do his dirty work. Then they won't stop, she whispered. No, Ethan said. They won't. He glanced at her again. She looked exhausted, her face pale but steady. Fear hadn't broken her. It had hardened her. He respected that. You should rest, he said. I'll keep watch. She nodded, curling under a blanket near the wall. Ethan? Yeah? If we make it out of this, she murmured, eyes closing, I hope you find peace, real peace. He looked at her, her golden hair falling loose across her cheek, and something stirred in him he hadn't felt in years. Something like hope. Outside, coyotes howled under the cold stars. Ethan Cole sat awake through the night, rifle across his knees, guarding a woman who had changed everything without meaning to. He didn't know yet that before dawn came, their lives would be tangled forever, in blood, in fire, and in something neither of them had believed in for years. The morning broke cold and gray over the canyon. Thin mist rose from the desert floor, softening the sharp edges of rock and bone. Ethan was already saddling the horses when Amelia stirred. Her hair was tousled, her eyes still heavy with sleep, but the moment she saw him, she sat up, alert. Is it morning already? She asked, rubbing her eyes. Sun's up, he said. We move while it's cool. She nodded, pulling on her gloves with careful fingers. Her hands were bandaged neatly from where he'd treated them the night before. Do you think they're still out there? I know they are, he replied. Granger's the kind who doesn't quit till he gets what he wants. She looked at him across the fire pit, her voice quiet. And what he wants is me. Ethan didn't answer. The truth didn't need saying. By mid-morning, they had left the canyon behind, riding through scrubland where the horizon shimmered under the sun. The silence between them was easy now, a kind of trust born in fire and fear. The older woman, Mrs. Hayworth, rode behind them, too tired to speak. It was near noon when they reached Dust Creek. The town was a rough patch of life clinging to the edge of nothing. A saloon, a boarding house, a blacksmith, and not much else. The Silver Dollar Saloon stood at the heart of it, its wooden sign creaking in the hot wind. Ethan left the women at Widow Martinez's boarding house, the only decent place in town, and went to the saloon to get news. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and whiskey. He ordered a drink, trying to ignore the weight of tired eyes watching the stranger with the gun belt. He'd barely taken his first sip when the doors swung open. The room went silent. A man stepped inside. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in fine Eastern clothes that looked out of place in this dust-choked town. His gray eyes were cold, and his smile colder. Silas Granger. Ethan didn't need an introduction. The man's presence said everything. Power, money, control. "Evening, gentlemen," Granger said easily. "I'm looking for a lady. Blonde, blue-eyed, traveled from the east. Might have passed through here." No one answered. Folks in Dust Creek had learned that silence was safer than honesty. Granger's eyes scanned the room, then stopped on Ethan. "You," he said, walking forward. "You look like you've seen some miles. Run into anyone on the trail?" Ethan met his gaze, calm and unreadable. "Desert's full of folks, mister. Some better left unmentioned." Granger smiled, slow and dangerous. "Clever answer. Mind if I buy you a drink?" "I've got one." The air in the room tightened like a drawn bowstring. "I'll make it worth your while," Granger said, leaning close. "There's a $500 reward for information leading to Miss Prescott. 500 in gold." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 500 could change a man's life. Ethan didn't flinch. "Haven't seen her," he said. "But I've seen a lot of buzzards lately. Maybe one of them found her." Granger's smile slipped just for a second. "Careful, friend. You don't know who you're talking to." "I know enough," Ethan said. "You're a man used to getting what you want, and I'm a man who doesn't like men like that." The saloon was so quiet that even the flies seemed to pause. Then the doors opened again. Silas. Every head turned. Amelia stood in the doorway, her chin high, her blue eyes steady. Dust streaked her skirt, but she carried herself like she was still in a ballroom. "Leave these people alone," she said, her voice calm but clear. "This is between you and me." Granger's expression softened into something that might have looked like affection to someone who didn't know better. "Amelia," he said, his voice syrup-sweet, "thank God. You've no idea how worried I've been." "My father knows why I left," she said. "There's nothing to discuss." He took a step forward, his tone darkening. "You think running changes anything? Your promise to me. Your father's word binds you." "Your threats don't bind me," she snapped. "You don't own me." Granger's eyes flicked toward Ethan. "Oh, I see. You found yourself a protector. How predictable." Ethan stood, his voice quiet but full of warning. "She said no. That's where the conversation ends." Granger turned fully toward him. "Mr. Cole, is it? You're making a mistake." "Made plenty already," Ethan said. "One more won't kill me." "You're a fool," Granger hissed. "You think you can save her. You think you can protect her from men like me. The West chews up good men and spits them out." Ethan stepped closer, close enough for their shadows to touch. "Maybe, but I've survived worse than you." Granger studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "Thin, deadly. I'll remember that." He tipped his hat to Amelia. "Enjoy your freedom while it lasts, darling. I'll be seeing you soon." Then he turned and walked out, his men following. The sound of their spurs faded down the street, but the tension lingered like smoke. The bartender finally exhaled. "You just made yourself an enemy, Cole." "That man owns half this territory." Quote. "Then it's about time someone told him no," Ethan said, tossing a coin on the counter. He turned to Amelia, who was standing pale and trembling. "We're leaving," he said. "Tonight." She nodded, but her voice shook. "Ethan, you don't know what he'll do." "Then we'd better be far gone before he decides." That night, under a blood-red sunset, they packed what they could and rode hard into the desert once more. The wind howled across the plains, carrying the echo of hooves and a promise that Silas Granger wouldn't stop until he got her back. But as Ethan looked at Amelia riding beside him, hair whipping in the wind, fire still burning in her eyes, he knew one thing for certain. He'd stand against the whole damn West if he had to. Because some things, some people, were worth every fight.